Daddy, come to the stage, baby.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to KizBiz, the place where I keep you plugged into all the hottest news and pop culture drama with nothing but the actual factuals. Today, we're diving deeper into the life and legacy of Sean John Combs, aka Brother Love, aka Diddy, aka Puff Daddy, aka Puffy, aka P. Diddy, and the internet's latest moniker, the Diddler. Let's address the latest in Diddy news. According to the Daily Mail, Christmas behind bars was apparently more than Diddy could handle. If you've somehow missed it, Diddy has been locked up at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center since September 16, 2024. The man who once ruled red carpets and penthouses now calls a 6x9 jail cell home. No luxury, no entourage, and no escape. The former king of opulence reportedly had a meltdown and begged the guards to send him to the prison hospital, only to be met with a hard no. Diddy, who likely expected his legal dream team to swoop in with a holiday miracle, is now coming to terms with a harsh reality. No amount of money or power will be bending the rules in his favor this time. After 3 failed bail appeals, he's finally waved the white flag and waived his option for further attempts. His reality now? Prison food, steel bars, and cold concrete until his trial in May 2025. But how did we get here? To truly understand how one of the most powerful figures in entertainment landed himself in this mess, we have to rewind the clock and go back to where it all began. In the last episode, we delved into the early chapters of Diddy's college life, his days at Howard University, his hustler mentality, his party promotion, and a chilling glimpse into the undercurrent of violence that would come to shadow his legacy. If you haven't seen it yet, pause this video and catch up. It's all part of the puzzle. Today, we pick up the story right from that all-important interview with Uptown Records founder Andre Harrell. This was a moment that launched Diddy into the fast-paced world of the music industry, first as an intern and then as a driving force behind Uptown's rise. To fully understand Combs' meteoric rise, we need to zoom in on the man who arguably made it all possible, Andre Harrell. Harrell wasn't just another industry executive. He was a visionary, a crucial player in the web of connections that didn't just propel Combs to stardom, but kept him there for decades. Harrell's own journey in the industry started as one half of the teen rap duo, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but his real genius shone when he moved to the business side of the music world. His sharp instincts first became evident when a young rapper named Heavy D auditioned for Def Jam. Harrell, then a vice president at the label, immediately saw Heavy D's star potential, but Russell Simmons, the label's founder and Harrell's roommate at the time, didn't agree and passed on him. Harrell couldn't shake off that this felt like the wrong call. Determined, he took Heavy D's demo and shopped it around until MCA Records saw what Simmons didn't. With MCA's backing, Harrell left Def Jam to start his own label, Uptown Records. Under Harrell's leadership, Uptown became a powerhouse, introducing the world to iconic acts like Teddy Riley, Heavy D and the Boys, and I'll Be Sure. The label's signature sound, New Jack Swing, fused hip-hop beats with R&B melodies, defining the sound of a generation. By the time a 19-year-old Sean Combs walked into Harrell's office in 1990, Uptown was already a trailblazer in the industry. Harrell saw something in Combs, a relentless ambition that mirrored his own. Taking a chance, Harrell made Combs his first ever intern, unknowingly setting the stage for one of the most iconic careers in music history. Combs wasted no time proving his dedication. At Uptown, Combs often shadowed Andre Harrell during meetings and phone calls, absorbing every detail. In a 1999 New York Magazine interview, Harrell revealed, "Anything that was told to Heavy D or Mary J. Blige or Teddy Riley from my mouth, Puffy was there to hear it." Combs studied Harrell's every move, dissecting the strategies and execution, learning everything directly from an industry leader. Harrell was thoroughly impressed by Combs, dubbing him his young warrior. As Harrell told Vibe magazine, "I could send him into the jungle and he'd bring back the lion's head every time." Combs' ambition didn't stop at Uptown. He was still a full-time student at Howard, but on Thursdays and Fridays, he lived a double life. By day, he was a golden intern at Uptown Records in New York, eager to impress and absorb every lesson in the music business, and by night he'd be back in Washington, commanding Howard's nightlife with his infamous parties, turning campus gatherings into cash factories. The unpaid internship drained his resources, forcing him to take shortcuts like sneaking onto trains and hiding in bathrooms to dodge ticket fares. Years later, when asked about this time in Vibe magazine, Combs' response dripped with defiance. "I didn't give a fuck. I was at Uptown." Juggling school and work became impossible, and eventually Combs reached a crossroads where his ambition outgrew the confines of academia. So he dropped out of Howard, a decision that deeply disappointed his mother, Janice Combs, who fondly referred to Howard as the Black Harvard. But for Combs, the path forward was clear. For years, he told Vibe magazine, "That's holding me back. I can't wait that. I've got to get my hustle on now." Although he abandoned school, Combs didn't abandon his hustle. Instead, he supercharged it, leveraging his newfound connections at Uptown to elevate his party promotion game to unprecedented heights. With the help of Jessica Rosenbaum, a heavyweight New York hip-hop promoter with deep industry roots, Combs infiltrated the upper echelons of the city's nightlife. It was calculated empire building, one exclusive high-profile event at a time. "I found myself being this senior executive of A&R," Combs recalls telling Vibe magazine. "I wanted to use my power and my money to rent some of these clubs so we could have a place to go." Partnering with Rosenblum, he launched Daddy's House Nights at the infamous Red Zone, a hardcore hip-hop haven pulsating with live shows, cutting-edge beats, and a relentless attitude. To seal the club's reputation, Combs enlisted a rising Bronx DJ, Funkmaster Flex, whose burgeoning talent electrified the scene. Daddy's House became a magnet for tastemakers, earning its legacy as the epicenter of New York's underground hip-hop culture, but the success was fleeting. The chaos that followed Combs like a shadow soon unraveled the operation. Fights broke out. Combs claimed to Vibe magazine, "It just started to become too much pressure for me, and I was making money from work. I didn't want party promotions to be the main thing in my life." Of course, Combs' version of events conveniently skips over the truth. His side hustle came to a screeching halt, not because of ambition or pressure, but because of one catastrophic celebrity party that spiraled into a nationwide scandal. But more on that later. It was a convenient rewrite of history, which is perfectly in line with Combs' talent for erasing his own missteps. Now, spending all of his time at Uptown, Harrell quickly became more than just a boss to Combs. He became a mentor, a guiding force in shaping Combs' burgeoning career. Their relationship grew close, perhaps too close. Harrell welcomed Combs to stay in his New Jersey home with him, giving him a room of his own. This closeness translated into opportunity. As Combs earned Harrell's trust, he began shouldering more responsibility. He seized every opportunity Harrell threw his way, exploiting each one as a stepping stone to ascend the Uptown hierarchy. So when the A&R director left the company, Combs wasted no time. He invited Harrell out, and over lunch, he pitched himself for the role. Surprisingly, Harrell obliged. Combs, the once eager intern, was now Uptown's director of A&R, achieving in a year what others spent lifetimes chasing. It wasn't just a promotion, it was a power grab that cemented his reputation. His meteoric rise at such a young age was crafting a dangerous persona, an arrogant menace who thrived on power and the chaos he left in his wake. Sybil Penix, an Uptown Records staff member, described the pandemonium he created in a GQ interview. "I was Puffy's assistant and Andre's go-to person to keep track of Puffy and his craziness. Many days we would have a planned meeting and Puffy could not be found. When he finally arrived, he'd just lie on the conference table, pulling antics to get everyone's blood pumping. He thrived on drama. For anyone else, such behavior might have led to termination, but Combs' unique bond with Harrell shielded him from repercussions. It was becoming increasingly clear that Combs wouldn't settle for staying behind the scenes. His flair for self-promotion was as relentless as it was calculated, ensuring he remained at the center of attention. Kathy Nelson, then head of MCA Soundtracks, recounted an unforgettable moment to GQ magazine. "I remember going to a meeting to watch a video for one of Andre's artists. Puff was in charge of it. We were looking at the rough cut, and there Puff is, in the video." Combs wasn't content with pulling strings behind the curtain. He was forcing his way into the spotlight, making it impossible to ignore him. With his larger-than-life persona, he was building a reputation that rivaled the star power of Uptown artists. Alternating between the monikers Puffy and Puff Daddy, he raised his profile so effectively that Vibe magazine once described him as the only A&R executive in the business with as many groupies as his artists. Beneath the glamour lurked whispers of a wicked tone. There have been recent accounts of violence that have surfaced from Combs' time at Uptown. In 2023, Liza Gardner filed a lawsuit accusing Combs of heinous behavior dating back to 1990. Gardner that at just 16 years old, she and a friend met Combs and Uptown artist Aaron Hall at an MCA Records event in Manhattan. According to the suit, the men plied them with drinks and invited them to Hall's residence for an after-party. Once there, Gardner alleges they were supplied with more alcohol and marijuana, after which point Combs assaulted her despite her protests. Still reeling and trying to dress, she says Hall then barged in and pinned her down to assault her as well. The nightmare didn't end there. Gardner claims that Combs later tracked her down, choking her until she nearly passed out, fearing she might expose what had happened. Combs' legal team dismissed the allegations as a quote-unquote money grab, but the chilling claims add another shadow to his carefully curated legacy. In another 2023 civil suit, another woman, Joy Dickerson Neal, came forward to allege that Combs had assaulted her in 1991. According to her suit, she claimed their fleeting connection through a music video, Straight from the Soul by Finesse and Sinquist, led to a nightmare. After initially rejecting his advances, she eventually agreed to dinner due to Combs' persistence. According to her lawsuit, during the dinner, he spiked her drink while she stepped away from the table. Later, under alleged pressure from Combs, she took a hit from a blunt that left her disoriented. She asserts that they then drove to a music studio, but when she couldn't exit the car because her legs felt rubbery, he then drove her to a nearby residence where he assaulted her. Adding to the horror, Dickerson Neal alleges that she later discovered Combs had filmed the attack and shared the footage with others as if it was entertainment fodder. Diddy's legal team, unsurprisingly, has come out to dismiss the lawsuit with a sharp rebuke. The 32-year-old story is made up and not credible. Mr. Combs never assaulted her, and she implicates companies that did not exist. This is purely a money grab and nothing more. Tragically, this was merely the beginning of the dark and menacing legacy that would continue to haunt his rise to power. Combs' biggest projects and his greatest triumphs at Uptown were Jodeci and Mary J. Blige. Two acts the label had severely underestimated. Tasked with developing and marketing them, Combs saw their untapped potential and wasn't afraid to take risks to bring it to life. Jodeci, a four-man singing group from North Carolina, was his first major project. Their debut record had been a flop, and they were on the brink of irrelevance. Drawing from his Harlem roots, Howard University hustle, and the party culture he thrived in, he worked alongside his then 17-year-old girlfriend, Misa Hilton, to rebrand the group entirely. Hilton helped him strip away the polished, preppy image of R&B stars like Boyz II Men and replaced it with something raw and dangerous. Combat boots, leather jackets, and hoodies. Jodeci's new aesthetic wasn't just a look, it was sex appeal and a vibe. Combs, alongside his girlfriend, convinced Harrell to embrace this radical transformation, positioning Jodeci as a rebellious, street-smart antithesis of the genre's clean-cut norms. His rebellious against-the-grain creativity didn't stop at visuals. It bled into the music itself, reshaping the soundscape. One night, fate presented him with an unexpected opportunity when legendary producer Teddy Riley was a no-show for a studio session. Instead of wasting the opportunity, Combs seized the moment and made a move that would redefine R&B, influenced by the mixtapes of Brucey B and Kid Capri, where they'd blend hip-hop beats with R&B acapellas. He experimented with Jodeci's vocals, layering them over an EPMD beat, and the result was electric. That specific track, the remix of Come Talk to Me, became the first record Combs ever produced, and unknowingly, it became a cornerstone of a new genre, hip-hop soul. His instincts were spot on, and his defiant vision paid off in a big way. Jodeci skyrocketed to platinum success, their raw and rebellious image captivating audiences across the country. But this wasn't just a win for the group, it was a crowning moment for Combs. He had proven himself to be a visionary, capable of taking risks that paid off big. Riding high on a string of successes at Uptown Records, Combs seemed untouchable. But in December of 1991, that streak of victories came to a catastrophic halt. a single night of chaos and tragedy that would haunt his career and legacy forever. The event was a celebrity charity basketball game at City College of New York, co-organized by Combs, Heavy D, and Jessica Rosenblum. Designed to raise awareness following Magic Johnson's shocking HIV, the game was billed as a night of celebration and positivity. The lineup featured heavyweights like LL Cool J and Boyz II Men, promising to elevate Combs' rising profile with his attachment to even bigger celebrities. But the overwhelming draw of the event set the stage for disaster. Over 5,000 attendees swarmed the venue, a space meant to hold less than half that number. What began as an eager crowd quickly descended into chaos. Funneled into a narrow stairwell leading to locked doors, panic erupted. Screams filled the air as bodies pressed forward with nowhere to go, the weight of the crowd suffocating. The crush was unbearable. 9 people lost their lives that night, including the pregnant girlfriend of Uptown artist Father MC, who also happened to be a close friend of his then-girlfriend Misa. Dozens more were injured. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Public outrage ignited, and the blame game began. Accusations flew in all directions, but one name was at the center of it all: Sean Combs. His reputation took a devastating blow, and he was getting multiple death threats. What should have been a shining moment for Combs became a nightmarish scandal. In a 1993 Vibe interview, Combs resented the shadow the tragedy cast over his life. "No matter how many platinum records I have, they'll think, oh, that's a guy who murdered 9 people at City College." He claimed vindication from the mayor's report, stating, "They didn't check out the mayor's report that cleared me of all the blame." In true Combs' fashion, he wasn't telling the whole story, a hallmark of his modus operandi. This pattern of selective storytelling and deflection is a reoccurring theme in his responses to scandal, as we'll uncover time and time again. The truth was, the City Hall report didn't absolve him. It found him partly responsible, citing reckless planning and a delegation of critical tasks to inexperienced associates. Security was disastrously inadequate for a crowd that size, and the consequences were catastrophic as a result. As lawsuits piled up and whispers of criminal charges grew louder, Combs' career dangled by a thread. Public fury was relentless, and Uptown Records faced mounting pressure from its parent company MCA to cut ties with him. Even Andre Harrell, Combs' mentor and protector, advised him to disappear from the spotlight. Terrified and cornered, Combs retreated to a Manhattan hotel with his mother, his future hanging in the balance. Years later, a scathing 1999 ruling by New York State Judge Louis C. Benza would go on to hold Combs partly responsible, ordering him to pay damages in a civil suit. MTV reported he settled for $750,000 with the families of those who lost their lives that night. The tragedy didn't just threaten Combs personally. It became a national scandal. It fed into negative stereotypes and racial biases about hip-hop and its supposed dangers, tarnishing Uptown's reputation. Behind the scenes, MCA demanded Combs' removal, leaving Harrell to fight an uphill battle to save him. Calls to the Uptown office were met with a cold response, a secretary curtly stating that Sean Combs had been placed on an indefinite suspension. The message was as clear as it was ominous. Combs' reign at Uptown was on pause. In a GQ interview, Kirk Burroughs, co-founder of Bad Boy Records, recalled MCA wanted him gone. It was a long, dragged-out thing, but Andre worked his magic. MCA gave Puff another chance. Harrell's loyalty became Combs' lifeline. He connected Combs with William Kunstler, a controversial but legendary attorney once described by the New York Times as the country's most polarizing and perhaps best-known lawyer. But even with legal heavyweights in his corner, Combs' name was irreparably damaged. The young prodigy, once seen as a future of Uptown Records, was now its greatest liability. The recklessness that had fueled his meteoric rise now teetered on the edge of his undoing. One more mistake, and even Harrell's unwavering loyalty wouldn't be enough to shield him. With his career hanging by a thread, he threw himself into a high-stakes project that could either cement his legacy or obliterate it. Mary J. Blige's debut album, What's the 411? At the time, Blige was little more than an overlooked backup vocalist, a hidden gem buried within Uptown's roster. But to Combs, she was more than potential. She was a ticket to his redemption, and he would stop at nothing to make her a star. From her sound to her image, Combs took the reins with relentless precision. When Blige needed a ride, Combs would personally drive to the housing projects in Yonkers to get her to the studio. Behind the scenes, he didn't just oversee the album, he engineered it. He co-produced nearly every track, slipped his name into the writing credits, and orchestrated a marketing strategy that transformed Blige into a cultural icon for Black women everywhere, mirroring their struggles, resilience, and triumphs. Together, they didn't just create an album, they birthed a revolution. When the album dropped in the summer of 1992, it sent ripples across the music industry. Critics hailed it as a groundbreaking masterpiece, celebrating its seamless blend of hard-hitting beats and heartfelt vocals. The public absolutely devoured it, catapulting the album to triple platinum status with over 3.5 million copies sold and crowning Blige as the year's most successful female R&B artist. The success of What's the 411 forced MCA and the entire music industry to reconsider the man they had nearly written off. Combs didn't just reclaim his position, he amplified it. Riding the wave of his triumph, he co-directed and even put himself in Blige's music videos, a calculated move to keep his face and his name front and center, but attached to positivity this time around. The tides weren't just shifting. Combs was controlling the currents. His success earned him a promotion to Vice President of A&R and Artistic Development at Uptown, but it still wasn't enough. He wasn't just content with power. He craved dominion. By the end of the year, seizing the momentum, he made his boldest move yet, the creation of his own Uptown imprint, Bad Boy Entertainment. Combs was now ready to take complete creative control and build his own empire. It was clear Puffy, or Puff Daddy, was back on top. Well, for now, and that's where we're going to leave it for today. As we dive deeper into Diddy's story, one thing becomes clear. His life is a roller coaster of dynamic highs and malignant lows, but we barely scratched the surface. In this chapter, the patterns are starting to crystallize. His ability to turn every spotlight towards himself, his seamless integration into his artist success, keeping himself center stage. Allegations of his abuse appear to also gain their own momentum, which are starting to move in tandem with his rise to the top. We can also see how his powerful connections served as a shield, protecting him when the stakes were at their highest. Behind the scenes, his influence was steadily reshaping Uptown Records, turning Andre Harrell's brainchild into a powerhouse. There's so much more to uncover, and I'll be doing just that for you all. If you're hooked and you want to see what comes next, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss the twists and turns in the next chapter. If you have any theories, hot takes, or any thoughts about Diddy's story so far, drop them in the comments. I'm always excited to hear what you think. Thanks for tuning in to KizBiz, where we keep it real, keep it factual, and keep you in the loop. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.